Hello and welcome to Should I Buy, a show where we give you all of the information you need to decide whether to buy a game or not. I'm Matt, and today we're going to ask the question, should I buy Gunpoint? Now, before we start this review, I'd like to give a bit of disclosure. As we started getting all of the information for this review, I actually found out that I have one of the game's composers on my Facebook. We'd like to point out that despite this fact, we had no idea about this correlation and no intention of swaying any sort of bias from this. We hope you still trust our judgment in this review, as we'll stay as impartial as we can. Anyway, on with the review. What is Gunpoint? Gunpoint is a stealth-based puzzle platformer created by Tom Francis, a person who's part indie developer, part editor for PC Gamer magazine. The game has you playing as the main protagonist, Richard Conway, with an arsenal of interesting gadgets. How is the gameplay? The gameplay is actually very good. It's one of the most unique I've seen in a while, with very fresh mechanics that really work. The game has a well-paced tutorial that shows you the main mechanics efficiently, whilst forwarding the plot in the process. This is an excellent example of good tutorial design, as it never pulls the player away from the action, in, say, a tutorial level that's away from the main game, or a nagging voice that tells you to push this button and go over there, do this, do that sort of style. Or a huge page describing the mechanics, but not actually showing them in action. The level design at the start of the game is also fantastic at giving scenarios that force the player to learn the many in-level tools present to take out enemies and solve puzzles. This is a nice aspect of the game that shouldn't be ignored, as teaching new mechanics not really seen before by the player is something that's not very easy, and it's something that could have very easily have gone wrong and left the player feeling stuck and confused the whole way through. The gameplay itself is great, it's smooth and well designed and feels great to play. From the get-go, the player is given the Bullfrog brand Hyper Trousers. This gives you the ability to jump really high and land from extraordinary heights without taking damage. Very early on, you are introduced to the Crosslink, quite possibly the game's main feature. The Crosslink allows you to hack devices, linking, say, a switch to activate doors, shock enemies, turn off lights, and much more. This, combined with the jump mechanic, makes for some real interesting scenarios and action movie maneuvers that feel exciting to perform. It's great because it feels organic, with no real set pieces or quick time events determining the badass moves that you make. It's just you and your wit. In turn, this creates the basis for some great emergent narrative, giving you, as the player, some very interesting in-game moments. Although the mechanics are very sound, the game itself is its main downfall, spanning only a few hours of campaign. You could probably complete this game in a matter of 4 hours, and after the fantastic learning curve of the tutorial stages, it's not long until the game's difficulty flatlines, with the levels becoming less complicated as you progress, and in turn less satisfying. There are multiple endings and ranks at the end of the level that may get you replaying through some of them. However, it's the fact that you can finish the entire thing in one sitting that's the gameplay's biggest con. The game does have a level editor, so you can make your own stages, and you can play other people's stages too, but my argument against making this a redeeming factor is the fact that the game should not require the community to make the player's experience worth it. Rather, the developer's job in making the game. Upgrades are present, allowing you to increase your jump height, reduce jump charge time, and increase your battery slots. There is also a shop where you can purchase new gadgets and get new moves that spice up the game that much more. My favourite feature of the shop is the button that lets you try out a gadget before buying it. Never again will you have to use your money on a not very well described item. You can just check it out and see if it's worth a dash. The scenarios, like the tutorial, are great at showing you how each gadget works. However, it doesn't do that good of a job describing how to use them. You may get lost for a bit clicking around aimlessly until you figured out exactly how to use the new gadget. The try it button felt like a fantastic fix for the buyer's remorse that you sometimes find in games. So, for those moments in games where you save up for many missions for that one expensive, briefly described item, and then find out it's not that great, this is a great solution for that problem. That said, once you buy an item, you can simply return it for the same amount. Returning an item with no penalty makes things less like a shop and more like an equip screen, with the only limitation of how many items you can bring to the next mission being the amount of money you have present at the time. Also, although the game has a great way of showing you the mechanics, it doesn't do a great job in describing the batteries in the game, or where they are in your HUD, leaving me as a player guessing and figuring it out as I went. Presentation. In terms of presentation, the overall graphics are great, giving a good sense of a dark noir atmosphere. This is emphasised even more so through the smooth jazz playing during gameplay. The visuals take a drastic change when switching to the crosslink, turning more into a technical view of the level in an almost sci-fi aesthetic. A cool feature in the music that I don't think has been praised yet is the music takes a subtle change too with the switch of views. Although the melody stays the same, the style and timbre of the song changes to a more synthy, modern track. Although the music is great, the sound design is very lacking, with the sound effects sounding flat and some actions not having sounds at all. It doesn't give you any satisfying audio feedback for some of the actions that you do, which really diminishes some of the badass actions that you can do. The menu looks cool, however, be prepared to get confused at the layout as it isn't named or placed very well. I'll give you an example. Here's the scenario. So, you're playing through the level and you're trying to get an A+ rank. You want to pause the menu and restart. If you clicked on either Options, Abort Mission or Start New Game from Scratch, then you'll be wrong in finding the restart button. Instead, you have to click on Load Save Game. From here, you either press 1, 2 or 3 to choose an autosave state, or finally, you get the option to hit R to restart. It's not easy to restart once you've finished the mission either. Once you get your rank, in order to restart, you must return back to the menu, find the mission from the button Previous Missions, skip through the dialogue, and finally take another stab at the level. It's arbitrary, and some of the options in the pause screen really should be taken out, as it clutters and adds for some really annoying accidental clicks. The quit button doesn't have an "Are you sure?" message, so I found myself accidentally trying to abort the mission to start again, and closing the game entirely. It just makes it feel like certain aspects of the game wasn't very well thought out, and could do with refining. Another aspect that could do with changing is the camera, which you'll often be fighting with in between hacking and running around in the game. Story. Without spoiling too much, the story is very well written, with some very interesting and sometimes laugh out loud dialogue choices. The main way you communicate is via text messages, and the developer has done a great job in making each character text talk in their own personal way, making the character dialogue sound natural and real. There are dialogue choices, however, it's very easy to spot that it's mainly an illusion of choice, and that most of what you choose doesn't affect the characters or the story all too much. There are around 1 or 2 choices that bear any sort of impact to the story. Other than that, it's mainly for the amusement of the player and how you'd want the protagonist to sound like in terms of the choices that you make. The story does get quite deep as you go, with some very emotional bits that I'm not going into detail in this review, as I'll leave it to you if you buy the game. Final rating. Overall, the game handles very well and allows you great freedom within the game mechanics to pull off some amazing feats. The mechanics are what really makes this game stand out, as they are by far some of the freshest mechanics I've seen in an indie game for a long while. With a funny, and at moments emotional story, it holds together for a very interesting game. If this is what you think you'll like, then I recommend getting it. The main thing that makes it fall and diminishes the overall fun value is its small campaign, with only a short gaming session's worth of game. The short game, plus small niggling issues with the UI, the camera and sound design all go against it, and if you feel you can't overlook these issues, I'd recommend getting it in a cheap bundle, or possibly on sale if it goes cheap enough. I hope you enjoyed this review, and if it's helped you, please like this video. Also, comment and let us know what you thought of this review. We enjoy making reviews for you and love reading the comments to see what you guys think. Also, subscribe for more should you buy videos as well as other game related content. I'm Matt, and I'm gonna make a cup of tea. Bye!